Your dentist has been recommending fluoride toothpaste your entire life. And for decades, we all just trusted that. But here's what they probably never told you. There is a compound that your teeth are literally made of, a compound that has now beaten fluoride in a randomized controlled clinical trial, and almost nobody is talking about it. It's called nano-hydroxyapatite, and by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why it might be the most important switch you ever make for your oral health. But I need you to hear one warning first, because if you wait too long, no compound on earth can help you. Stay with me. By the end of what we cover today, you will know exactly what to use, how to use it, and whether it's already too late for your teeth. That last part, that's the part most people aren't prepared for, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Let's start where the story actually begins. Fluoride has a genuinely impressive track record. We need to be honest about that. When community water fluoridation rolled out in the mid-20th century, cavity rates dropped dramatically across the developed world. The Centers for Disease Control actually named water fluoridation one of the 10 great public health achievements of the 20th century. That is a real accomplishment. Fluoride strengthens enamel by converting hydroxyapatite, the mineral your teeth are made of, into a harder compound called fluorapatite. That mechanism is real. That chemistry works. So this video is not an anti-fluoride conspiracy rant. I want to be absolutely clear about that. What this video is a conversation about whether fluoride is still the best option available, because the science has moved forward, and most people have not been told. Here is where the questions start. The CDC's own data shows that dental fluorosis, a condition caused by fluoride overexposure during tooth development, now affects roughly 1 in 4 Americans between the ages of 6 and 49. 1 in 4. That ranges from mild white streaking to more severe brown staining and surface pitting. Most cases are cosmetic, yes, but the sheer prevalence tells you something important. We have been overshooting the dose for a long time. Then there are the neurotoxicity questions. High-dose fluoride exposure in animal studies has raised concerns that have not been fully resolved. And any parent who has watched a toddler swallow a blob of toothpaste knows the anxiety that comes with it. Fluoride-free options for children have been a growing category for good reason. But here's the question I actually want you to sit with. What if the best ingredient for your enamel was the same material your enamel is already made of? What if instead of converting your enamel into something else, you could literally rebuild it with its own building blocks? That question is what nano-hydroxyapatite answers. And before I explain exactly how it works, I need to give you the warning I promised at the start, because everything else depends on you understanding this one biological fact. Your tooth enamel is the hardest substance in the entire human body, harder than bone. It has to be. It handles crushing forces every single day for your entire life. But that extraordinary hardness comes with a devastating trade-off. Enamel contains no living cells, 0, not 1. Unlike bone, which has osteoblasts and osteoclasts constantly remodeling and repairing tissue, enamel has no cellular machinery for self-repair. The cells that built your enamel, called ameloblasts, die off completely after your teeth finish forming. They are gone. They cannot come back. And neither can structurally lost enamel. Let me say that one more time because it is that important. Once enamel is physically gone, worn away by acid erosion, ground down by bruxism, fractured by trauma, it does not grow back. There is no stem cell treatment, there is no medication, there is no toothpaste, nano or otherwise, that can regenerate enamel that has been structurally destroyed. The only option at that point is restorative dentistry, veneers, crowns, bonding, procedures that replace what is lost with synthetic material. But here is the crucial distinction, and this is the window that this entire video is about. Early-stage enamel damage is a completely different situation. When enamel begins to demineralize, when acid starts dissolving, the calcium phosphate mineral out of the enamel crystal lattice, that process can be reversed. The physical structure is still there. The scaffolding still exists. Minerals can be deposited back in. That is remineralization. And that is the window. How do you know if you are still in the window? There are signs. Sensitivity to cold drinks or sweet foods that you did not used to have. A slight translucency when you look at the edges of your front teeth in bright light, almost like the tips are starting to look see-through. A dull, flat appearance to your enamel instead of a healthy, subtle sheen. And the classic early warning sign that dentists call white spot lesions, chalky, opaque white areas near the gum line or around old bracket sites if you ever had braces. Those white spots are not staining. They are areas of active demineralization. They are your enamel sending an SOS signal. If any of those descriptions just made you think about your own teeth, good. That is not meant to panic you. That is meant to mobilize you because the window is open right now. The question is how long it stays open. Now, let me make this more uncomfortable for a moment because the problem goes deeper than most people realize. Even if you are brushing twice a day, every day, with fluoride toothpaste, your enamel may still be quietly losing the battle. Not because you are lazy, not because you are doing something wrong, but because the modern environment is absolutely hostile to tooth enamel in ways that no single toothpaste can fully compensate for on its own. Think about what you drink in a typical day. Coffee is acidic pH around 5. Sparkling water, even plain unflavored sparkling water, is carbonic acid pH between 3 and 4. Sports drinks are typically between 2.9 and 3.7. Soda is around 2.5. The critical pH threshold for enamel dissolution is 5.5. Below that number, your enamel is dissolving. And most of us are bathing our teeth in sub 5.5 liquids multiple times every single day. And here is the mistake that is making everything worse. Brushing immediately after eating or drinking something acidic. When acid hits your enamel, it temporarily softens the surface layer that is the demineralization process starting. If you brush within 30 minutes of that acid exposure, you are essentially scrubbing away softened enamel. You are accelerating the very damage you are trying to prevent. The standard recommendation is to wait at least 30 minutes after acidic food or drink before you brush. Add to that equation GERD and acid reflux, which expose teeth to stomach acid pH 2 from the inside. High sugar diets that feed Streptococcus mutans bacteria, which then produce lactic acid right at the enamel surface. Dry mouth from medications, from mouth breathing, from dehydration because saliva is your body's natural remineralization fluid, loaded with calcium and phosphate ions. Without adequate saliva, your teeth lose their primary natural defense. The picture is not pretty. And I am telling you all of this not to depress you. I am telling you because what works for your teeth in this environment is not just a better toothpaste. It is a better system. And I am going to give you exactly that system before this video ends. But right now, here is where everything changes. Because what I am about to explain is the actual reason I made this video. Nano-Hydroxyapatite. Let's break that down so it actually makes sense. Hydroxyapatite is a calcium phosphate mineral with the chemical formula K10PO460H2. It is the primary structural component of both teeth and bone. Roughly 96% of your tooth enamel is hydroxyapatite by dry weight. About 70% of your bone is hydroxyapatite. This is not a foreign substance. This is not a synthetic chemical your body has to deal with. This is literally the material your teeth are built from. The prefix nano refers to particle size. Nano-hydroxyapatite particles are engineered to be between 20 and 80 nanometers in diameter. To give you a sense of scale, a human hair is roughly 80,000 nanometers wide. These particles are extraordinarily small, and that size is not arbitrary. It is precisely that particle size that allows nHAp to do what larger hydroxyapatite particles cannot do: physically penetrate into the microscopic pores and channels of demineralized enamel and integrate directly into the existing crystal structure. Here is the mechanism, in plain language. When you brush with nHAp toothpaste, billions of these nano-sized particles make contact with your enamel surface. They are attracted to demineralized areas where mineral has already been lost, and they deposit into those sites. They fill in the microscopic gaps and defects in the crystal lattice. They form new mineral that is chemically indistinguishable from your natural enamel. Not fluorapatite, not a conversion product. Actual hydroxyapatite, your tooth's own material, rebuilt. But it does not stop at the enamel surface. nHAp particles are also small enough to enter the dentinal tubules, the microscopic channels in dentin that, when exposed, cause tooth sensitivity by allowing fluid movement that triggers nerve responses. When nHAp plugs those tubules, sensitivity decreases. Multiple studies have shown sensitivity reduction comparable to or exceeding dedicated sensitivity toothpastes. And here is one more mechanism that is particularly interesting. nHAp forms a thin, stable pellicle on the tooth surface that inhibits bacterial adhesion. Streptococcus mutans, the primary cavity-causing bacterium, has a harder time anchoring to an nHAp-coated surface, so you are simultaneously remineralizing, desensitizing, and reducing bacterial load. 3 mechanisms. 1 ingredient. Compare that to fluoride's mechanism. Fluoride converts hydroxyapatite into fluorapatite, which is slightly harder and more acid-resistant. That is genuinely useful, but it is a chemical transformation of your existing enamel. nHAp is not transforming anything. It is rebuilding. Adding back what was lost, with the exact material that belongs there. And importantly, nHAp is already used in medicine, bone graft surgeries, orthopedic implant coatings. It is classified as biocompatible and non-toxic by international regulatory standards. If a child swallows nHAp toothpaste, there is no toxicity concern. The body simply processes it the same way it processes any calcium phosphate mineral. That is a meaningful advantage when we are talking about children's dental products. Now, let's talk about the evidence. Because mechanism is one thing, clinical results are what actually matter. The study I referenced at the beginning is published in Oral Health and Preventive Dentistry. It is a randomized controlled trial, which is the gold standard in clinical evidence. That means participants were randomly assigned to either nano-hydroxyapatite toothpaste or fluoride toothpaste. Neither group knew which they were using, and outcomes were measured objectively. The primary measures were enamel remineralization, lesion depth reduction, and surface hardness recovery in early carious lesions, the early cavities that are still in the remineralization window. The finding: nano-hydroxyapatite performed non-inferiorly to fluoride, meaning it was at least as effective, and in several outcome measures, it outperformed fluoride. That is not a fringe study. That is peer-reviewed, randomized, controlled clinical evidence. And that is not the only evidence. Japan approved hydroxyapatite as an active ingredient in dental products back in the 1990s. Japanese dental manufacturers have been selling nHAp-based toothpastes for over 30 years. The safety and efficacy record there is extensive. European markets have followed, with nHAp toothpastes becoming mainstream in Germany, Switzerland, and the UK premium dental market. In vitro studies, laboratory studies on extracted teeth and enamel samples have consistently shown nHAp outperforming fluoride on surface roughness. Recovery, which is a measure of how well the enamel surface is being rebuilt at the microscopic level. A 2019 review published in the British Dental Journal noted that nano-hydroxyapatite shows significant promise as a remineralizing agent with an excellent safety profile, particularly for pediatric populations. I want to be transparent about the limitations of the evidence as well. The nHAp research base, while growing rapidly, is still smaller in total volume than the century of fluoride literature. Most major dental associations, including the American Dental Association, have not yet formally updated their guidelines to include nHAp recommendations. That matters. I am not asking you to ignore professional consensus. What I am telling you is that the science is ahead of the guidelines right now. That happens. It happened with hand washing, with low-fat diet guidelines, with H. pylori and ulcers. The science moves. The institutions catch up later. The specific protocol that was used in the clinical trials and the one that the current evidence supports is this: 10% nano-hydroxyapatite concentration in the toothpaste. Use it twice daily, morning and night. Brush for 2 full minutes. And do not rinse after brushing. That last point is important. Rinsing immediately after brushing washes away the active ingredient before it has time to work. Spit, do not rinse. Let the nHAp maintain contact with your enamel. This is the same no-rinse recommendation made for fluoride toothpaste. In many guidelines, the principle is identical. Now, let me give you the complete system, because the toothpaste is step 1, not the whole answer. Step 1. Switch to a 10% nHAp toothpaste. Used morning and night, 2 minutes, no rinse. This is your foundational remineralization tool. Step 2. Reduce your dietary acid load strategically. You do not need to give up coffee or sparkling water entirely. Use a straw for acidic beverages to minimize tooth contact. Rinse with plain water immediately after acidic exposure. This dilutes the acid and raises the pH in your mouth faster. Wait at least 30 minutes before you brush. These 3 habits alone can dramatically slow the rate of enamel erosion. Step 3. Optimize your saliva. Saliva is your body's built-in remineralization fluid. It is naturally saturated with calcium and phosphate ions, and it continuously deposits minerals back onto your enamel between meals. You want as much of it as possible. Stay well hydrated. Chew xylitol gum between meals. Xylitol stimulates salivary flow and has been shown in multiple studies to inhibit Streptococcus mutans colonization. If you have chronic dry mouth from medications, from a medical condition, or from habitual mouth breathing, address that directly with your doctor or dentist. Dry mouth is a significant and underappreciated driver of enamel loss. Step 4. Support remineralization nutritionally. Your body cannot deposit minerals onto your teeth if it does not have those minerals available. Adequate dietary calcium and phosphorus are essential dairy products. Leafy greens, almonds, and sardines are excellent sources. Vitamin D3 is critical for calcium absorption without sufficient D3. Your gut cannot absorb dietary calcium effectively, regardless of how much you consume. And vitamin K2, specifically the MK7 form, plays a directing role. It activates proteins that guide calcium into bones and teeth rather than soft tissues. These 3 nutrients work as a system: calcium and phosphorus as the raw materials, D3 to absorb them, K2 to direct them where they need to go. Step 5. Monitor. Book a dental checkup if you have not had one recently, and specifically ask your dentist to evaluate your enamel for signs of demineralization. Ask about white spot lesions. Ask about erosion patterns. Make it a real conversation about your enamel health, not just a standard cleaning appointment. Your dentist can take baseline measurements and track whether your remineralization protocol is working over time. This is a partnership, not a replacement for professional care. And I will say it one final time. This entire protocol works only if you are still in the remineralization window. If your enamel has been physically worn away, structurally gone, no protocol rebuilds that. See a dentist and discuss restorative options for those areas. But protect every square millimeter of enamel that remains, because what you still have is worth fighting for. Let me run through the questions I know you are already forming. Is nHAp toothpaste safe for kids? Yes, and this is one of its primary advantages over fluoride for the pediatric population. There is no toxicity risk from swallowing. Several pediatric randomized trials support its safety and efficacy. For young children who cannot reliably spit, nHAp is a genuinely superior choice. Can I use nHAp and fluoride together? The current evidence suggests they may compete for the same binding sites on enamel, potentially reducing the effectiveness of both. Most nHAP researchers recommend choosing one protocol and committing to it. Some combination products exist, but the evidence for synergy is limited and inconsistent. How long before I see results? Clinical trials typically demonstrate measurable remineralization at 4 to 12 weeks of consistent twice-daily use. Sensitivity improvements are often reported faster, sometimes within 2 to 4 weeks. Will my dentist support this? Many progressive dentists, particularly in Europe, Japan, and increasingly in the US, are already recommending nHAp. Bring the research to your appointment. Print the oral health and preventive dentistry study if you need to. Have the conversation. A good dentist will engage with evidence, not dismiss it. Are all nHAP toothpastes the same? Absolutely not. Look specifically for 10% nHAP concentration, that is the clinically studied dose. Avoid products containing sodium lauryl sulfate, known as SLS, which is a foaming detergent that may interfere with nHAP's ability to adhere to enamel surfaces. Verify that the product specifies nano-range particle size, not microhydroxyapatite, which is too large to penetrate enamel pores effectively. Read the ingredient label like it matters, because it does. My enamel is already heavily eroded. Is it too late? I am going to give you the honest answer, because you deserve it. For the areas that are already structurally gone, yes, remineralization cannot help those specific areas. You need a dentist for that. But it is never too late to protect and remineralize what remains. Never. Even heavily eroded teeth still have areas of early demineralization that can respond to this protocol. And stopping further damage is always within reach, regardless of where you are starting from. Now, let me address something that you may have already been wondering. If the evidence for nano-hydroxyapatite is this compelling, why is your dentist still recommending fluoride? Why has nothing changed? The answer is not a conspiracy. It is something more mundane and in some ways more frustrating. Institutional inertia. Dental guidelines are built over decades. The fluoridation framework in the United States is over 70 years old. The infrastructure around it, municipal water fluoridation programs, fluoride supply chains, toothpaste manufacturing standards, dental school curricula, represents an enormous institutional investment. Updating that framework requires not just new evidence, but overwhelming evidence, consensus building across regulatory bodies, guideline review processes that move at a bureaucratic pace. The science can be 10 years ahead of the guidelines. That is not unusual in medicine. It is frustrating, but it is normal. Geographically, the lag is visible. Japan has had nHAp in regulated dental products since the 1990s. Germany, Switzerland, and the UK have growing nHAp markets. The United States and Canada are behind not because the science is weaker there, but because the regulatory and commercial infrastructure around fluoride is more entrenched. At Medimint Health, we follow the research, not just the consensus. And the research is pointing clearly, consistently, and increasingly toward nano-hydroxyapatite as the superior remineralization agent for the modern era. The trajectory is unmistakable. You do not have to wait for a dental association to update its position statement to act on what the evidence already shows. So let's bring this home. Your enamel is made of hydroxyapatite, not fluoride. Fluoride has served a purpose, and we gave it fair credit. But nano-hydroxyapatite works by rebuilding your enamel with its own biological material, and it has now beaten fluoride in a randomized, controlled trial published in Oral Health and Preventive Dentistry. The dose that works: 10% nHAp toothpaste, twice daily, 2 full minutes, no rinsing afterward. Early demineralization, white spots, sensitivity, early softening can be reversed. Physically destroyed enamel cannot. The window is open. The question is whether you act while it still is. The full protocol is 5 steps. nHAp toothpaste twice daily. Reduce acid exposure strategically. Optimize your saliva. Support remineralization with calcium, phosphorus, D3, and K2. And monitor your progress with your dentist. These 5 steps together are exponentially more powerful than any one of them alone. Check the description below for a link to the referenced clinical study and a breakdown of exactly what to look for when choosing an nHAp toothpaste concentration, particle size, what to avoid. I have made it as simple as possible. If this video gave you something new to think about, something genuinely useful for your health, please subscribe. We cover evidence-based health topics that challenge the default and give you the information you actually need to make better decisions every single week. And drop a comment right now, have you already switched to nano-hydroxyapatite? Or is this the very first time you are hearing about it? I read every comment. I want to know where you are starting from. Next video, we are going to talk about something that is quietly destroying your sleep quality, and most people do not even know it is happening. You are not going to want to miss that one. This content is for educational purposes only. Please consult your doctor before making health changes.